Leeds United are starting to have their eyes on the prize, that specific prize specifically being survival in the Premier League, and that means having an eye on the January transfer window. We've all heard the bits about Daniel Farke, needs a point per game over the next batch. That's all well and good, but to survive the rest of the season, we will need to do something in the transfer window. Check out my most recent video if you want to find out the details. I think we need a striker, probably need a right winger, probably need a 10. I think we get two of the three. We'll find out what they are. But according to the sort of leadership at the club right now, it's all looking very much like they've maxed out PSR, which is not the best thing to do at the minute. And in terms of players that are the very, very obvious sales that Leeds United don't really want anymore, specifically I'm looking at you, Illan Meslier, that's going to be a hard sale to get done in January, and even then, that's not going to save that much money. So, Leeds United are looking like they may have to make at least one fairly significant sale in the January transfer window. And in this video, I'm going to run through the players that are seemingly candidates for that. The one that you will have probably all seen reported is amongst those. Run through the reasons why you would and wouldn't sell each of them, and then eventually sort of land at an idea of what the transfer window ahead of us might look like. And I'm going to start with the obvious note of Meslier. I imagine will go. It will either be January or the summer. He's not going to stay at the club in the long term, but we'll find out how that goes. But for me, there are four players that have been consistently rumoured to be on their way out of Elland Road. I'm going to go through in sort of order of likely sales, if that makes sense. Just sort of like one by one. We'll start with the least likely to be sold, in my personal opinion, and we'll end with the one that I think is most likely to find their way out of the door. And for me, the one that is probably looking like the least likely to begin with is Pascal Struijk. If you have a look at our leadership group from last season, it was Meslier, it was Ampadu, it was Struijk. Ampadu has a tendency to get injured at points. Struijk has a tendency to get injured at points, and we don't realistically know who becomes the captain in the event that both of those are unavailable. He's very clearly a significant part of the squad, and personally, I think his sort of addition to the back line is something that is underrated because we saw him go out and then all of a sudden we've forgotten how to mark free runners at the back post. I think him and Rodon have that good communication that doesn't exist with Beale just yet, so I can't realistically see us selling Struijk. He is a decently valued asset. There is absolutely no disagreement with that. He's a very, very good footballer. But the fact that he's a very good footballer means we can't really let him go, and he started 8 of our matches this season so far. To me, that doesn't scream the sort of player that you can just release into the wild, get a little bit of money back, because you would then need to cover another centre back, because that leaves you with 3, and then you're talking, well, Ampadu can drop in. Oh shit, he's injured. Well, Stack can drop in. Oh dear. Makes a lot more sense, in my opinion, at the very least, to keep Struijk around and sell in a different position. Another player that I think is in a very similar situation with that is Tanaka. Now, people have again mentioned Tanaka a little bit because he's a player that is relatively on the young side. Again, he's not super young. How old are you specifically, Tanaka? Let's have a very, very quick look. 27 years old. He's a little bit younger. Jesus Christ, Tanaka's younger than me. That's rough. But he's a little bit younger than me, so he's in a decent sort of position in terms of his age. He's coming into his prime, and he's a very good player. We signed him for fairly cheap, so when it comes to a sale, the vast majority of that would be profit. But for me, that's where the benefits of selling him end. You'd get a decent amount of money in, sure, you could reinvest it, brilliant. But we're relatively sort of thin on the ground in midfield, and when it comes to the profile of midfielders, Tanaka is effectively the only pure central midfielder we've got that does the progressive stuff. Ampadu is more of a sort of passive six. Gruev is the same kind of thing. Stack was the best six in the Bundesliga last season, outside of Bayern, but you don't count Bayern realistically. Which means that he's not necessarily that much of a natural at ball progression. Also, you've got Longstaff, who's more of that sort of gritty midfielder who's going to challenge players and sort of jump into tackles, but he's not the guy that gets the ball up the pitch. And for me, the weakness at the minute is getting the ball up the pitch. So again, it's a case of you sell Tanaka, cool, you get in a right winger, you get in a 10. But suddenly you've not got any progression to the 10 through the midfield. So that's a whole new problem that you've just built for yourself. So you probably don't go with Tanaka. And that leaves the two options that I think are the best choices for players to sell. I'm going to start with the one that everyone is discussing already, which is Willy Gnonto. Willy Gnonto, when we signed him, was a young, promising, upcoming winger where a hell of a lot of his sort of value was held in his potential. He's a player that's got boatloads of potential. Like when it comes to it, this guy is going to, if in the right environment, turn into a player that will set the world on fire. But as time goes on, I'm beginning to sort of question whether Leeds United is that right environment for him. Because people will point to him and say, well, he's not been given the chance by Daniel Farke. Have a look at last season. He played 43 games in the Championship, a bit in the FA Cup, a bit in the EFL Cup as well. Started 26 of those, was injured for chunks, but then was held out of the squad by Dan James for extended periods. And to me, to develop into that player that he can become, he needs minutes. And I don't reckon he's exactly what we need in those wide areas right now, because when it comes to the way that he sort of plays against defenders, he will go up to a fullback, immediately make a decision of can I beat this guy or not? And if he can't, he will check backwards and just put it back into the centre of midfield. Where I think what we realistically need at the minute is someone that is willing to just take on a player. Okafor is, let's be honest, he's given the ball away a little bit, fine. But he's someone that doesn't mind in the slightest just thinking, I could probably beat you, and he'll just take his man on and get a little bit closer to the box. And occasionally lose the ball, fine. That's what wingers do. That's kind of their thing. Gnonto doesn't do that. Sure, we retain the ball a lot more with Willy Gnonto, but I don't know if that works, and I personally think that Gnonto plays best off the left. Okafor's out there. I prefer Dan James on the right because he's a bit more direct. Honestly, I think I prefer Aronson to Gnonto out on the right, and a lot of people disagree with that opinion, but that's fine. It's an opinion, everyone has them. But I think the defensive part of Aronson's game is really quite good, and we missed that when we got Gnonto on the pitch. So I think you potentially sell Gnonto, sign in two players with nice, chunky, amortized contracts, which means that effectively sell Gnonto for 20 million or so. 4-year contracts on your incoming players, you've got 80 million pounds to spend there. That's a hell of a lot more than we would need to spend to reasonably reinforce on the right wing and number 10, and is arguably enough to do the number 9 as well. Just the issue becomes, do you fix the Gnonto issue reasonably well? And that's why a lot of people are talking about Gnonto potentially going. Like I've seen someone mention that it's Daniel Farke's biases that are forcing out these young, talented players. It's not. It's the fact that at the minute, Gnonto isn't what we need. And you can't realistically just loan Gnonto out because we kind of need the money right now. Sometimes, and there's this rule in the world of writing, where you have to kill your darlings, the things that you really, really like, to get to the end product that you kind of want. I think that might have to be the case with Willy Gnonto for a lot of people. And it sucks, because I quite like Willy Gnonto. But you can't always say, and we're going to keep this promising wonder kid forever, because then you lose the value of their youth, because a lot of the value of their youth is the fact that you can inflate the transfer fees to high hell. And the fact that he's wanted by some pretty damn big Serie A clubs is something that I think we should make the most of this January. And then you've got the final player on the list, and this is one that I think just makes the most sense. Joel Piroe. It's a fundamental part of the side last season. Got himself 19 goals, won the Golden Boot, all that kind of stuff. But this season, so far, Joel Piroe has played 181 minutes. No goal involvements, and you start to sort of ask the question of, is he going to be the right guy to take us forward in the Premier League? Because as part of that promotion squad, brilliant, but he's the kind of player that needs a little bit of time to just pick the finish that he needs. Once he like prepares to take the shot and has a go, deadly. But he's the kind of player that needs a little bit of time to set that one up. He's played even less than Gnonto has this season, which is another sort of interesting note. And I prefer Calvert-Lewin and Mecha over him. We do need another profiler forward. We need someone that is, because Calvert-Lewin and Mecha are both sort of hold-uppy kind of guys. We need someone with a little bit of movement between the lines, someone that will just make a darting run between the centre-backs that you can find with a through ball from time to time. Because at the moment we are just limiting our ability to counter-attack, and the right number 9 fixes that. And for me, a sale of Joel Piroe enables us to get that number 9. For me, the perfect window in January, and this might seem harsh to those players, but it's probably Nonto and Piru go out, and Melier, obviously, but like I don't reckon we can sell him because he'll just find a free. Nonto and Piru go out, replace Nonto on the right with a direct winger that also has a little bit of a work rate going backwards. Get yourself a number 10. I'm still going to say Edouard Spurtjan because I really like the guy. And you also get yourself a 9 that has that sort of direct, pacey vibe to him, that kind of profile that is something different to Calvert-Lewin and Mecha. And you ultimately land with a squad that is better balanced, regardless of who is managing at that point, because I'm not getting into that conversation at the minute. We'll wait until after the Villa match, see what's happened in the international break, all that kind of stuff. We know the 49ers aren't going to make a decision right now, so there's no point having the conversation right now. And we'll see where we're at. But I think that's sort of what January needs to look like, and I hope we get something done. But at the end of the day, that's just what I hope. Let me know what you're hoping happens in January in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not yet, it's massively appreciated, or even be a channel member because you get videos like this one nice and early. And I'm going to keep trying to do videos a little bit more consistently when football returns, but being the international break and various other bits and bobs happening, it's been hell. So sorry about that. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Doodle.